Oxfordshire is actually the strongest resistance to us. Interesting. The leader speaks. Flood of volunteers. As a member of Parliament and a war hero, Claude Auchinleck is afforded a certain respect by much of England. He was the last man standing in Carlisle, after all, and as such he became the patron of several charitable organisations, in addition to hosting many public events. It's merely a coincidence that the HMMLR's recruiters also frequent these events, and that Auchinleck often speaks to those who have reason to be disaffected with the current social order. Auchinleck knows that the HMMLR cannot rely entirely on its existent forces. When the day of liberation comes, every man who can hold a rifle will be needed. Thanks to his efforts, there may be a few more than expected. So we gain a bit of support in Gloucestershire and Wessex. How can you deal with Holder's boys in Cornwall? Don't know. Haven't even considered that yet. Let's go support weapons and land doctrine. We're going to need support company buff. And here comes the returns. So once we have flood of volunteers, do we want to get staying in the north or do we want to get under the noses? Wiltshire, London, Oxfordshire. I'm not really targeting any of those locations, so I think we're just going to go staying in the north. I don't know if we have support in those southern areas, is that going to result in like divisions rising up? Like, is it going to be one province within the state that becomes ours or something? Because that's going to be similar to how it works in the Spanish Civil War, if it is. A barbaric relaxation. Matilda's joints ached. They do that to you if you spent all day running from place to place, learning how to shoot a gun, being oogled at by the men who never learned basic respect, and being shouted at by an angry man wearing a uniform. She would swear on her own life and been clean since the 1940s. She collapsed into Paul's dilapidated, lumpy couch. He'd let him stay in his ratty flat, which was nice of him, considering the fact that they'd just run away from home. Matilda wondered if her parents were searching for her. Were they worried? She shook it off. Don't think about them. They'll forget her eventually. At least she hoped they would. She started to tear up despite herself. Matilda? Matilda rubbed her eyes and blinked. Ah, sorry, Olivia. Was just getting lost in my thoughts. Olivia sat down on the couch next to Matilda, practically falling onto it. Your legs? Matilda asked. Yeah. God, it was sodding brutal, wasn't it? I swear on my life I won't be able to walk for 2 weeks, let alone shoot some policemen. And so the evening moved on. They had a lot to talk about after all. They'd been through the looking glass at this point, 2 19-year-old girls in a seaside city joining what had been called a terrorist organisation. So my dad, right? He ties the boat up and the knot slips and I go floating out onto the lake. The story wasn't very funny, but Matilda laughed anyway. You're amazing, Olivia, she said, still grinning. I know, Olivia replied confidently. Matilda leaned back, stretching and bloody exhausted. She pulled out of the embrace before kissing Olivia sweetly. I suppose we better get to bed then. The girls lay together in each other's arms, and Paul's bed was bumpy and uncomfortable, but that didn't matter. Darling, Matilda whispers. What is it, Matilda? Olivia whispers back. I'm so happy you're here for me. Time for class, need to head off. These students don't teach themselves. Have a good day all. See ya, Flapjack. 29th of September. I keep like panicked looking at the clock. I'm like, nope, we're good. We have time. Just about. A couple of days. So what damage have they done now? Stability in 2 of them. 3rd. 4th. 5th. Okay, so So. When we get staying in the north, this is going to give us support and stability, so we are going to absolutely crush it in those locations. So I think I'm going to say under their noses. Smuggling might not be a dignified profession, but the revolution isn't built on soldiers alone. We need engineers, truck mechanics and factory workers just as badly as we do lads with a gun, and coming up with these supplies in England can be a bit hard these days. Hence why the southern dockyards and their constant flow of ships are so important to us. With forewarning, we can get a shipment of old Yank rifles from dockside Liverpool to London or Carlisle in 2 days. Less if we don't have to bribe the fascist guards. Of course, our ability to get to and from comes with some other uses too. More than one fascist official has gone missing on an evening stroll. More than a few others will join them. Alright, we're going to do it, because that is 15 support right there. And then we're doing staying in the north, and we'll complete these. Support in Sussex. Oh, these require all of the following, so I should have been hitting London. But with state stability. Okay. So we are going to... I think we're just going to do investments everywhere, quite frankly. Ah, shoot. Wrong place. Drat. Because these ones want the growth of the cells. And then London needs the investment. So Newcastle, London and Oxfordshire. East Anglia, Lancashire, Sussex. Oh, crikey. Alright, it's more than... Oh, one of the following. So East Anglia or Lancashire? Oh, as long as we keep Lancashire, we're fine. Although, I'm guessing the more of them that we can do, the better. So if we can get East Anglia stability up. And Oxfordshire stability. Sussex doesn't seem to matter. Okay. At the moment it might look like I'm spreading myself very thin, but I have a plan. We have lots of political power saved up and we're just going to have a wave of guns tumbling into our laps as soon as I open up the north, which is why I'm working on the stability right now. Don't fight it, just join them! No! I want to join them. Sterling's not on their side, he's on ours. We're undertaking their silly little missions again. As long as it's not reducing my stability. What's the blue part of England? You mean Scotland? United States of America and their allies have defeated Guyana. Under their noses. Done. Okay, it's time. Staying in the north. Claude Auchinleck fought the last battle of united Britain around Carlisle, a desperate defence that culminated in him being forced to capitulate only as the official surrender was signed, buying time for Wembley to retreat into Scotland. The north is his home as easily as London. That's where HMMLR had built up a substantial network of support even before contacting Alexander and Stirling. So it's fitting, then, that the freedom of England shall be reborn where it died, in the foothills of Northumberland, the dreary coast of the Irish Sea. Scotland is An unknown at this point in time, but even if they dare not oppose the Germans openly, they'll almost certainly aid us with supplies and volunteers, even foreign ones. Of course, the North is more agreeable to the ever-squabbling Alexander and Stirling as well, as it favours neither. I think he meant to the south under Wales. Oh, Cornwall. That's the German garrison in England. They're the ones trying to make sure that we don't make too much of a mess of things here. First, second, third, fourth. Oh, fifth. Alright, so we're going to go invest in Newcastle, invest in Lancashire, invest in Yorkshire. And then in 7 we're going to expand the cells. West Midlands, expand the cells. East Midlands, expand the cells. East Anglia we're going to invest. Gloucestershire we're going to invest. London we're going to invest. And Oxfordshire, invest. How are we doing for guns? We are down to just 120 now. We have 6 days until that occurs. So I think at that point I want... $140 from you. A barbaric assault. The feeling of a gun in her hands was a familiar feeling, but a new one like this. In her father's escapades, he would drag Olivia to shoot clay pigeons, and occasionally he would let her hold the rifle. But this wasn't a weapon for sport, it was a weapon to kill. Her hand shook slightly, her pulse quickened with every step into the factory. She held her breath slightly, trying not to make a sound. She glanced around the corner. It was full of workers, but more importantly 4 police officers, positioned around a front entrance. They were prepared. Have the police been intercepting their radio transmissions? She ducks back around the corner and holds up 4 fingers to the men behind her. They nod. 2 of them duck behind the back, firing gunshots into the air. Hearing the shots, 2 of the guards run out the front door, going expeditiously around the back for an ambush. 2 more of her comrades run inside. This factory is now under the occupation of Her Majesty's most loyal resistance. Surrender now, or we'll be not afraid to use lethal force. The officers, caught off guard, fired randomly and missed, before being immediately accosted with the barrel of a gun to their heads. Workers scattered while Olivia ran to secure the front door. It was too late. A guard stumbled through the front door before she could get to it. Olivia staggered backwards, shocked, before a bullet tore through her leg. It burned. Why did it sodding burn? A girlish scream erupted from her mouth. She fell to the ground unconscious. Her comrades immediately retaliated, lodging a bullet in the officer's skull. 2 guards were later hostage, dropped their weapons while shouting for surrender. Get the girl, get the ammunition and go, one of the partisans mutters, glancing over his shoulder at the rest of them behind him. And thus HMMLR sweeps into the night, carrying a casualty home. Dark times come to our couple. Has Germany hit economic freefall? No. Not yet. So how is it all looking in the north? Well, we're about to get a bit of a bonanza as soon as staying in the north completes. Okay, done. So now we can dominate Lancashire. We probably want to do these 3 as quickly as possible. The question is, do I want to do We Await, Mr. President, to get the OFN support and then dominate Lancashire, or dominate Lancashire then that? I think probably Lancashire first. Lancashire is perhaps the 3rd most populous area in England, containing Manchester and several populous towns besides. As an industrial region, control of Lancashire will grant HMMLR a solid base from which to liberate the southern regions of England. For if we have control of the north, then the south shall follow. The process of doing so may be difficult, but it is worth the cost. We have contacts in the councils and the trade unions, and the police are currently mostly on our side, but we need not fear collaborationist interference there. But we will have to ensure that any troublesome elements are dealt with as soon as the call for liberation sounds. Not killed, but detained for the duration of our struggle. A barbaric visit. Matilda couldn't show how she felt. She couldn't let people know of the horror she felt the moment she heard, the anxiety that hit her as she rushed to the field hospital. She sat calmly in the hospital waiting room, her face expressing a little sadness that she could withhold reasoning from her more pragmatic thoughts. She will never recover, will she? At least she wasn't dead. She had more time with Olivia yet, but there was a certain level of fear with her, a feeling that wouldn't leave no matter what she told herself. Miss Lewis, please come with me. As Matilda stepped through the door, she glanced around. Walls were all white, all sterile and bland. Matilda was almost blinded as she followed the nurse through the hospital before entering a door, placed at the end of the corridor. Inside was Olivia, her leg in a splint. Hello, Matilda, she smiled weakly, her eyes lighting up. How are you today? Matilda turned to the nurse. Excuse me, but could you please... Matilda's voice cracks. Could you please give us some time alone? The nurse shot a look towards Matilda. All right, suppose. As soon as the door shut, Matilda began to tear up, kneeled down and began caressing Olivia's hair. I can't, I'm sorry. She blurted out more and more gibberish. Shh, shh, it's all right, Matty, I'm still alive. Olivia gently moved Matilda's hand off her head. I'll need the crutches for a while, but I'll recover. Sure, Paul will help. I knew that. I knew this was a bad idea. I knew you'd get hurt. I knew it, but I joined anyway. Can't believe I was such a fool. Matty, please listen to me. Why did I say yes? This would never have happened if you had said no, but... If you'd said no, you would never have seen me again. Matilda stopped talking, her eyes bloodshot. Listen, Matilda, I know that I got my leg blown off, but in a sense I'm happy to. Not the pain don't make me happy, but I was happy to fight for our future and I still am. I need you to promise me that you'll fight as hard as I would, because if you don't, our lives will be lost instead of just being a hole in my leg. Matilda sniffed. Alright, I'll try. So, Yorkshire and Newcastle are back very solidly in our hands. So we need to dominate Lancashire, then I think Lancashire is basically going to become our stronghold. Because it's about to gain another 15 stability and we've already been boosting that pretty aggressively. And then it's just a question of... OFN relations. Hopefully they can stay high for just a little bit longer. So I can do the special shipments. The state of Turkestan declared war on the Republic of Karakalpakstan. Il Governato de Levante has halted the assault from Turkey in a border skirmish in the aftermath of the bombing of the Malta Conference. So Turkey failed. Italy wins the Italo-Turkish War. For years, the border disputes between Turkey and Italy have been a major cause of disagreements between the two allies. The high tensions between the two Mediterranean countries peaked after the collapse of the Triumvirate, leaving no obstacle before a war. Turkish troops already invaded the Italian Middle East. Italy did not stand idle against the Turkish aggression, and a small-scale war between the two former allies broke out. After the Turkish war machine ran out of steam, the fronts stalled and Turkey got bogged down in a stalemate they could not break. Gaining the clear upper hand in the war, Italy proposed a peace treaty with the terms of the reparations from the Turkish government and a demilitarization of the Damascus region, terms which have reluctantly been accepted by the Turkish government. Peace once more rules the Middle East now. Peace in the Middle East, huh? Can someone catch me up to what's going on? You mean for the whole mod, or what's happened in this game? Because we're playing as the English resistance trying to cast off the Nazi occupiers in England, basically. Or the collaborators, rather. So you're still doing missions in Lancashire. Alright, Lancashire's been dominated, so now we await, Mr. President. And then Operation Stock will go after that. The Americans are perhaps the only overseas ally we possess who can offer us more than just cast-offs and hand-me-downs in terms of material support. More importantly, though, they are vital to our long-term plans after England is liberated. Without American backing and membership within the Organisation of Free Nations, England will be invaded whenever the Germans feel like it. To that end, strengthening our relationship with Washington is a vital part of the operations, including, if need be, affirming certain basing rights following the war. For now, though, we need the assurance that aid will come. Not openly, of course, lest the Germans involve themselves in turn when we launch our uprising. Alright, so I want that OFN support, and I'm going to try and get the special projects as shipments if I can. Eric Koch, severely injured in the Kiev bombing. The second attempt on the life of the German leader this year, martial law, has been declared across the Reichskommissariat Ukraine, following an attempt on the life of the Reichskommissar Eric Koch. Reportedly injured when a bomb hidden within his personal vehicle detonated as he left his home yesterday morning. 2 soldiers and Koch's driver were killed, whilst Koch suffered severe injuries to his chest, right arm and face. Following emergency surgery, the German administrator reportedly remains in critical condition. With undercover foreign press having extensively exposed the levels of violence and poverty within Ukraine since the German capture of the region from the Soviet Union during the Second World War, many internationally now fear for the welfare of the Ukrainian people as the Reich hunts down those responsible. Troubling news from a troubled land. Oh man, paused it just in time. 4th, 5th. How many guns do I have? We have still got 120. That's not a lot. However, what we're going to do is invest, invest, invest. More cells in each of those. Gloucestershire is getting supply. London is getting stability. East Anglia is getting stability. Oxfordshire is getting stability. Sussex we're just leaving alone. 20 guns remaining, so hopefully we're going to be able to sneak some through. Like, it's critical that the OFN relations don't decrease. Until we've got the "we're waiting, Mr. President" done. Oh, research slot. 1960 guns, I think.